Hello and welcome back, my partners in crime. Welcome to Murder Analysed. I'm Christina Moore, back again with another true crime case. Now, today's case, bloody shocking case. I'm going to say it right at the beginning. This is shocking. Again, there's things in here that's just really, really bad. Really, really bad. This is about a girl, a young girl, teacher, just qualified a year before. And I think this case is such a tragic loss, not only for the family, but it seems like even for Ireland itself, right? They've really come together in this case because it's such a shocking case. You know, it just touched everyone, this case. And I remember reading about this case. This is 2022 case. And it's a case that you think, this is a stranger, right, murdering someone on the street, which is rare, right? It's rare, but it's not that rare. But this is the Ashling Murphy murder. And as we go through this, there's a lot of things here that need to be highlighted, and there's a lot of things on here I can't say, right? So if you're a part of my Partners in Crime behind the scenes, the members lounge, then absolutely there'll be a lot more on this case and actually on the previous one that I just did on Jenny Paul. But you know, I don't want to be I don't want to be stopped. But anyway, let's outline this case, right? Today's sponsor is me. Young girl. She was born on the 6th of July 1998, and yet her life was cut so short. She had just finished university as a teacher, as a infant school teacher, just a lovely girl. She was in a relationship and she had known her partner since they were at school together. They had plans, right? This girl had plans. She was a musician, an Irish musician, traditional Irish musician, sung and played her violin with her sister. This girl was vibrant, right? Vibrant, had a life, and she'd finished work on this day and thought, I'll go for a little run. And this was again North Dublin area. And a perpetrator really he'd followed a couple of girls before her. And I think for Ashling, she was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And that's the only thing about this crime. This could have been anyone in that area. The girls that he had followed before, and I'll talk about him in a minute, were lucky to get away with their life. Really. Unfortunately, Ashling didn't. A peaceful afternoon in January 2022. Ashling finished work. She then drove and thought, I'm going to go for a run. So she drove to the Grand Canal. You got to see a picture of it. It's lovely, right? And she thought she'd have a run along there. You know, clear her head. She's worked all day. Great teacher. Her life, you know, just ordinary every day. So she starts to run. Within a few minutes, a man then grabs her and he stabs her multiple times. She fights, right? She fights, but to no avail. This man was out for murder. Now, there's no real reason, or he's never given a reason why he did it. But when you read his history, and when you read about this man and his previous, not criminal history because there wasn't any, and we'll go through that in a minute, but he should have had. It was a sexually motivated crime to begin with. It would have been. But that never happened. In the end, because she fought so much, he just stabbed her in the neck, literally cut her across her carotid artery so that she could not scream for help. This was a terrible crime. Then what this man did was he then left her to die. But what he also did was left his push bike there. There was his DNA under her fingernails. And there was CCTV footage of this man. Now, again, this man had only been in Ireland since 2013. He had moved there with his wife and 2 children. They'd moved to Dublin and they'd moved to another part, and I'll go into that in a minute, close to where Ashling lived her life. He lived in a property. I think after he lived there he had 3 other children in Ireland, so in total he had 5 children in Ireland. He was on a benefit at the time. I think he had been for many, many years, and on a disability benefit. I don't know what for, it doesn't really say. And he lived in a property with 21 other people. They included his wife and his children, his brother, his wife and their children, another brother, the wife and their children, an uncle or something else. 21 people. Now listen, they didn't live in a mansion, they lived in a house, right? So he has gone out of this house, and you can see him on the CCTV on his push bike, because he didn't have a licence. He would either get taxis, buses or use this bike. He didn't drive. You can see him going around Dublin following women. And one couple of women was in the court actually and told about how they felt. They knew they were being followed by him. One actually got off the pathway because he was riding a bike and onto the verge, which made it more difficult for him to ride a bike. He got off and walked behind her at speed. She then walked into a public area. That's what saved her. Ashling didn't know any of this was going on. Then she gets out of the car, goes to this run. He sees her on her own, running, and attacks her. This man was called Joseph Puska. Now he was a Slovenian, a Slavic Romanian, I think. Born in May of 1990. He grew up in like Slovakia, and so when people they asked about him, they said, oh, he was quite an ordinary bloke, you know, kid. I think he left there when he was about 16. He moved then to, well, he left school at 16 without any qualifications. Then he went to work in construction in the Czech Republic, and then he worked on construction site in Prague. Now Prague is really important. In 2013 he moved to Ireland with his wife and his 2 children. And this is sort of where now he'd been. Don't forget this case was 2022. But when you look back on his history, in Prague he was linked to an attempted rape. In the UK he was also linked to an attempted rape, right, but no action was taken. He's then moved around and gone then to Ireland, and that's where he's committed this crime. Even though he says he didn't commit the crime, the first thing he said when police actually tracked him down, because of the CCTV and stuff like that, and also because he'd stabbed himself, you see, 3 times in the abdomen, because he said that when he had found Ashling laying on the ground near this canal, and that he had tried to save her, and there was another man there that attacked him as well. That's where he left his bike. But the thing is, he never ran off. He stayed hidden in the bushes for hours, and they knew he'd been in the bushes because of all the scratch marks on him, plus the defence marks that Ashling had tried to defend herself with. So you have this man now is a liar. He's a murderer, he's a liar. And the police think it's strange, right? So they go back on the CCTV. They see him tracking other women, following other women. They also see him entering his home, being driven by somebody else on that night of that murder. So he stayed hidden for hours. If you had found a body and you had been attacked yourself, you would have gone to a hospital, wouldn't you? I mean, this man is such a lie, you wouldn't believe it. But anyway, they finally charge this man with the murder, and there's overwhelming evidence of him doing it. But I think what happened was, when he was picked up, his family members, and a lot of them in court, they'd been to what we would call, like the first stage of the court. They're now going to Crown Court in 2025, so I can't comment on them. Right, but there were certain members of his family that have been taken to court for withholding evidence that are privileged. Really, that would have helped this crime be solved much quicker. So they lied for him, right? But that's all I can say on that, because that case doesn't come up till 2025, so I'll keep you updated on that. But this man, don't forget, had stabbed himself, not badly, in the stomach, but he had stabbed himself in the stomach in a way to try and make it look like he was attacked as well. And at first the police did believe him, until he was in the hospital. They took him to the hospital to get him stitched up and has done what he's done. And then he admitted it, the murder, because his story wasn't straight. And also the evidence, the CCTV evidence, the fingernail DNA analysis from under Ashling's nails, shown that he was the murderer. So as he's laying in his hospital bed in Ireland, being looked after by the great staff there, and the police know there's something wrong, they know he's not telling the truth, they go in, or the Garda, sorry, they're not just police, they're called Garda in Ireland. And he admits it. He says, I did it, didn't mean to, but he couldn't admit it, you see, because he couldn't really speak English. He had to have an interpreter. Even though he'd lived in Ireland since 2013, the man didn't speak a word of English, or so he said. But he told his interpreter to tell them that he had done it. He didn't know why he'd done it, but he'd done it. Then though, when he gets to court, and he got a mandatory life sentence, which is the 20 years, 2 months, hopefully that will be extended, because this man should never ever be out, ever. He then says he didn't do it. And there was issues because, of course, he'd had an operation, because of the stab wounds that he'd done himself. Did that influence him in any way? Was he in the right mind to say them sort of things? There was lots of people and lots of experts, and they said no, that really wouldn't have hindered, but it could have. But then, so this man then has to put down this family through a trial. So now all the information is coming out to this family. Partway through the trial, he says, I'm guilty, I did it. So this is assault, a perpetrator here we're talking about. But again, in this case, the media didn't write so much about him. They concentrated on Ashling. And so they should. Because this girl didn't deserve this. No one deserves to be murdered like this at all. By this sort of man. Right? A man that you're in a country that's invited you in, allowed you, and listen, I'm Irish, I'm half Irish. It's a beautiful country, they're beautiful people. And, if you didn't want to learn English, then learn Gaelic, learn whatever you want to learn. But have some respect for the place that you're living in, right? But not to be able to speak English at all. Not to even try. And to be living, and I think it was 23 people actually, it was in one house. It's, not necessary, is it? You're claiming a benefit, you're on an unemployment benefit, you're on a sick benefit. You're claiming all these benefits, at least have some respect for the country that you're in, right? And then you go out and you murder an innocent girl who you don't know. You don't know. There are rumours, because she was a teacher, that maybe one of his kids went to the school and she had said something. I don't believe that. There's no real evidence of that. This was a stranger attack on a female jogging. And it was sexually motivated, because we know it was sexually motivated for him because of his background, which he was never charged for in Prague and the UK. Again, another lack of evidence. People not pushing, right? Because when you have transits like that come into different countries and they move on, we don't know what their background is. And this is a big issue, right? The cultures are different. There was also a report about him, which is true, that he had underage sex with a girl in his country. But I say this all the time, right? You know, age of consent is different in different countries. And so in that country, the age of consent may have been lower than ours. In this country, or America, or wherever it is. Italy, it's lower as well. But, so that's maybe why he wasn't arrested and charged for that, because the age of consent is lower in that country than it is anywhere else. But for the other two, you've got one in Prague that he was, you know, a suspect in a rape, and in the UK a suspect in a rape. And then they disappear. It's not great, is it? Really. So the man actually had no criminal record. At all. None. So how can you then, to going from no criminal record to going out and murdering a stranger at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, or 4:15, this girl was dead by about, I think, 28 minutes past 4 in January. So it's dark, but it's not pitch black. There's people walking around. People are finishing work. It didn't deter him. To go from nothing to that is extreme. So I'd like to know more about him, really, what he had done. He's never going to tell you, because the man's an absolute liar. He isn't worth it. But there's more to this man, I believe, than meets the eye. Now again, with the case that we done previous, which is the Jenny Paul case, her brother said even someone like him, right, could have been linked. If you're looking for someone on the streets, the police could have had information about him. The only people that would have had information about him would have been Interpol, but he wasn't even enough for them. If England couldn't put a charge on him for suspicion of rape, right, they didn't have enough evidence. The man had no criminal record. No laws would have flagged this man up. None at all. None at all. But it's just a strange case, this. I think what's fascinating about this case for me is how the country and the world have responded to this in such a different way. As I've said, the mainstream press have already started changing its way on how they report crimes like this. They're putting more emphasis on the victim than they are on the perpetrator. We're changing, right? Things are changing. This girl's family were devastated, right? Without a doubt. Her boyfriend, devastated. Just devastated. This girl lost her life in such a tragic and horrific way. But what's come out of it is an awareness, right, of this. Awareness against violence against women. And they're pushing and pushing and pushing for it. Again, Clare's law that they want to implement in Ireland, Jenny's law. All these sort of things are pushing to help stop these violent crimes. Now, unfortunately, to be honest, I don't think anything would have stopped this perpetrator. Not anything. I think what this case has done has shown that people and communities will no longer tolerate this sort of crime. They just won't. They want change. They want things done. Right? They want things done. And if this crime makes change come about, then Ashling would not have died for nothing. And I hope that's the case. Because as we do these crimes, whether it's on YouTube or wherever else we do them, it's about awareness. So if you are jogging, right, if you are out and about, these sort of things do happen. They're rare, and I keep saying this, they're still rare, but they do happen. They do. You need to be so sure when you're out and about. Do not put earphones in and listen to music as you're running. Do not have a hood up. Have your vision around you. You have to have it. Because this poor girl, I don't think nothing would have saved this girl, right? This man was intent on going to kill someone. He was intent on it. Someone that day was going to die. And it's so unfortunate, isn't it, that this is the world that we live in. But we must, as women, continue to keep ourselves safe. So do what you can. Try and run with a partner. And I know it sounds bad because sometimes I've listened to myself and I think, we're women, right? We should be able to go out there any time of the night or day and do what the bloody hell we want. But you can't. You can't. And that's not because I don't want to or I don't want you to. I want you to be safe. I want you to understand what's really out there. And as our, not so much in England now because, well, saying that, borders change. Lots of people are coming into these countries and other countries that we don't know about their criminal histories, right? It's a fact. It's a fact. No matter how you want us to look at it, you want to say anything on your comments about it, we do not know who is coming in and out of these countries. We don't. They're not checked. They're not. They just come and go. The borders are open. Our border may as well be open because we've got just loads of people coming in. But you just don't know who these people are that's coming in, what their mindset is. We don't know. None of us know. So it's our responsibility as women to protect ourselves. After the fact, the CCTV and all this stuff, that's after the crime's been committed. Run in groups. Run in twos. Meet people. Do not put hoodies up. Do not have earphones in. Be aware of your surroundings. Protect yourself. Because that's the only thing you can do against a predator like this. Luckily, the other women he followed did look around, did see, did have that feeling, oh hang on a minute, something's wrong here. They done something about it. Poor Ashling just didn't have a bloody chance, this man. So, I think she died actually at 3:31. She was pronounced dead. And again, she had bled out and stuff. It was a slow death. But to be left like this gorgeous girl, talented girl, loved by her community, absolutely loved by them, musician, school teacher, something to give the world. And her life was taken by a man that had nothing to give or offer the country that had embraced him, really, since 2013. That's how he repaid Ireland. So this case is frustrating, right, in a way, because you've had the politicians go to the funeral, we've had everyone go to the funeral, but we have to think, right, as communities, how can we protect ourselves? Now, it has to be, apart, because both these girls, both these cases that I've just done, Ashling's and Jenny's, were both north of Dublin, right? That's where they're from. This community's been hit and hit and hit. 2021, 2022, you know, this man was convicted in 2023, this Joseph. You know, alright, we've got one off the street. There's many, many more. But I think these cases, as with domestic cases and violence against women cases, there are things that we can do, that we have to do. And the governments are part of that, but as our communities are part of that. Now her family, this fund they've set up, they've scholarship fund and stuff like that, they've done so much in her name. And both these girls, especially Ashling, should never ever be forgotten, because they had something to give the world. The world is lesser without this girl in it. And I think that's what brought the community of Ireland, of this town, together. Right? It was that sense of loss. Everyone really understood, hang on a minute, this can no longer go on. It's shocking, isn't it, really? So young. 20 odd year old, just finished university the year before, just graduated university, just started working in the school. The school kids loved her. The victims in this, apart from Ashling herself, were everyone that knew her. They will never get over it. This man has destroyed lives, so many that he can't even contemplate it. But to lie about it, to try and say you tried to save the girl that you'd murdered, to stab yourself, he's not right. But again, no criminal record at all. It's a shocking case, this, when you think about, and listen, on my behind the scenes part, my Partners in Crime lounge, I will be going to this in a lot more detail of how I feel. I can't say what I feel on here because it's YouTube and we're not allowed. I'm already censored enough as it is. But when you think about this case as a whole, right, and what's going on in Ireland and everywhere at the minute, something has to change, doesn't it? Something has to change. It has to change for women, it has to change for societies, things have to change. And if we want communities that are multicultural interaction together, language should be the first thing that we learn when we come to live in another country ourselves. You would take on that country's ways of life, its language, its culture, all this sort of stuff. You would, because you want to integrate, you want to be part of that country, because this country is giving you something, isn't it? It doesn't expect you to go out and murder its citizens. It just doesn't. And so at the heart of this case, there's so much underlying why people have clung on to this case. One, because this girl was innocent and attacked in a way which was just awful, left for dead, left to bleed out and die a slow, painful death. The loss to her family, her friends, her boyfriend. She had a life, they wanted to get married and just, it's happy, fun. She was a musician, her sisters, all this sort of thing, that you can feel the loss oozing from this case. It's a really shocking case. I want to know your thoughts on this case, right? Some of you are going to agree with what I say, some of you are not. That's down to you. That's what YouTube is, isn't it? It gives you your opinion on it. But I don't think any of you can ever disagree that this girl should never have died in the way that she died. It's shocking. Anyway, thank you for watching. Until next time. Bye-bye.